was a seemingly normal and beautiful May Day in 2008. The last day Ira Yarmolenko was seen alive.
It was a true, what you call whodunit.
When we got to 85 up there, we looked back, I said, John, the helicopter's flying over where we go fishing. So we turned around at the bowling alley and came back.
Yeah, right now there's a jet ski down there and another boat. Okay, and we're sure that the subject is dead? Yeah, they just said they found a body floating.
I knew it was a crime scene. I can visualize her fighting for her life.
That day was so beautiful out here. It wasn't
Nothing.
Just alone in her car, running
That's
errands.
where we found her, and just the sun beaming on her face like that.
Her in her car, driving toward the river. That's her in her car, driving along the river. Had to be. Oh, that's good. What about Hero herself? Because the last day of her life offer clues as to how she ended up on that muddy river.
Small person driving the car.
The actual keys to the vehicle are right up in this area here. How she got outside the vehicle, we can play the what if. Obviously, I don't know how she ended up in the position that she was.
Remote, hidden by trees.
Ira's body was laying right here. Her feet are down at this end, and her head is up where your feet are right here.
They are sure about one thing.
But I know someone caused her death.
Who killed Ira Yarmolenko and why?
So he came on and talked to us a few minutes. I would say 10 minutes. And he kept asking, did we see anything? Could we see the car? I said, what car? I said, there ain't no car here. He said, then he told us a little later on about the car. It was down there against the stumps next to the river.
Reportedly came over here into the development. One of the ways that she could
I can visualize her fighting for her life on this riverbank right here.
reportedly came over here into the development. Of course,
Were any of these doors open when they found her?
You had, I think, initially had thought that there was a certain amount of staging, and why would that be?
I'm not seeing the close-up of the body. See, I need to see close-up of the body to make that kind of statement.
It takes a hell of a strong person. Asphyxiation takes a hell of, it's not an instant thing neither. It takes a hell of power. It takes a lot of muscle power to kill that person. 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes for her to die.
seems to be a general slope downward until we get to about at the stop sign in front of us.
There was a young man swinging on a vine. He was across the river over there. They had a vine they swung out on that dropped in the water. Well, nobody didn't know this little boy couldn't swim. He was about, I think he's 17 years old. He swung out and dropped. He never came back up. He never came back up.
So I guess the best way to make sure that people know that someone like that existed is just to keep telling them, you know?
Ask us girls disguised as women, with hearts full of longing, with bellies full of indecision. What is life worth to you? What is time worth to you? Girls disguised as women, with hearts full of longing, with bellies full of indecision. What is life worth to you? What is time worth to you? What is time worth to you? What is time worth to you? What is
Okay, it's 10:21 in the morning. We are at the SECU Credit Union. We're going to follow the same track.
We are back in the university campus area, and you will recall from our last episode that we wanted to time test the travel path, assuming this time that Ira's last stop up by the campus area that morning was actually the Goodwill, meaning that she would have traveled from the bank, then next to Jackson's Java, and then finally to the Goodwill, from whence her car was last seen traveling through the YMCA parking lot some 30 miles away, all the way across the county next to the river. But now we are in front of the bank again, and since we're testing the theory that she went from the bank, then next to Jackson's Java, and then finally to the Goodwill, you would think my next stop would be Jackson's Java. But I thought it was more important to get a more accurate reading of going from the bank to the Goodwill. You'll recall that the first time we took that travel path, it timed out at 8 minutes going from the bank to the Goodwill. So by taking a second time, if it takes us a different time, we can average those two times and get a better approximation of how much time it actually took Ira to travel that path. As for the stop at Jackson's Java, we know from episode 5 that the bank and Jackson's Java are not located that far from each other. So by getting a more accurate reading of going from the bank to the Goodwill, we can always add time to that for the stop at Jackson's Java, which is not that far away. There is a certain method to this madness, or vice versa, so please follow along. He wants us to just blindly follow along, I suppose. That's right, Duke, just follow along.
Got the dash cam on. It's 10:21. The latest she was here, last she was seen on camera was at 10:20 and 55 seconds. She was on camera still making her deposit. So we say 10:21, 10:22, 10:23, likely the time that she left. We're going to make our trip to the Goodwill. Check, check, check. Everything's recording, and we pull out of the bank parking lot. Take a right on Chancellor's Place is the name of the street. We are about to enter University Boulevard. The shortest route there would be to make a right out of Chancellor's Place. Do a U-turn and head due east.
Remember, the last time we were at the bank, we went in to speak to a Jane Fisher. Now, she was a bank employee who testified in the Mark Carver trial that the state exhibits that showed still images of Ira Yarmolenko at the bank that morning were indeed images of Ira Yarmolenko that had been captured from the bank's surveillance video that morning, capturing what would have been Ira's final banking transaction inside the bank. But Jane Fisher wasn't at the university branch any longer of the SECU Credit Union. She was at the Kannapolis branch, which really isn't that far from the campus area. And so, since I was up in this area again, before starting this second recording of her travel time from the bank to the Goodwill, I stopped into the Kannapolis branch of the SECU Credit Union to see if we could catch up with the elusive Jane Fisher, and if she could tell us what that final transaction that Ira was engaged in at the bank that morning actually was, because she was asked at trial and she didn't know. So, based on the fact that Ira is deceased now, that information she may be willing to impart onto us. She was willing to meet us, but again, wasn't at that branch. Now, why would that transaction be important? Well, remember, we're just in the fact gathering stage. But what we do know is that Ira was moving about when we see video of her at the Goodwill dropping off items. She wasn't in a hurry, but she was moving systematically, almost like she was systematically moving through a bunch of checklist chores that she had to do that morning. So the fact that she stopped into the bank and spent 2 or 3 minutes in front of the teller window is significant. And there's not too many transactions that would require that sort of interaction, other than all I can think think of is depositing a check and needing immediate cash back, because if you're just going to deposit a check, she could have used the drive-through ATM, which we confirmed last time we were at the bank were indeed in existence at that time. She could have done that, or if she didn't need cash right away, she could have deposited a check and then waited for it to clear in the normal banking procedures. But she actually went into the bank. Whatever she did required 2 or 3 minutes of time. It's likely that, she wouldn't have been closing her account. It's true that she was moving back to Chapel Hill and that she may have been closing the account. But that's normally a transaction that's done off to the side on a table where you meet with the banker and settle your closing affairs that way. Not normally something that's done at the counter. So her last banking transaction, is it important? We don't know. But if she did need cash back right away, it kind of says something that she needed cash right away, either for that day or the next day. It also could raise the question of how much cash was found on her. And if there was a difference between how much cash she pulled out and what was found on her, can we reconcile that difference? Would that be important? We don't know. But again, remember the words of Dr. Watson. We're starting without a theory and we're just gathering facts. It's never too late to just gather facts. Where they'll lead, or if they'll lead anywhere, we don't know. But I thought it was important to try and catch up with the elusive Jane Fisher.
No, actually, I'm trying to follow the story. I posted that happened back in 2008. She was working at the university location, and she actually testified in the court proceedings. So I'm just doing a follow-up story. Sure, correct, yeah. I was at the university, I think they DM'd her or something like that. Sure, no problem. If you want to have a seat, like that.
Hi. Here to see Jane Fisher.
Yeah.
Hi.
You too.
I'm Jane.
Hey,
Hi. Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you.
Come on back. Come on in, have a seat.
Okay.
No problem. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm just doing a follow-up story on that whole Ira Yarmolenko case. It's, I don't know if you've been contacted to witness.
Yeah, I don't know anything at all about what's going on with that. But per company policy, I can't discuss anything with you on that part because they didn't give me much information. I got Jabber, you gonna be there? I'm like, yeah. What's it about? He's already left.
Yeah.
I staged you a trip. I'm like, what's it about? I don't know. So
Right.
I apologize for that, but yeah.
But you did appear in the court. Do you want to speak to any of that or that experience?
I can't do anything at all.
You can't do anything at all?
Yeah, I can't do anything at all.
Okay.
Because it has to go through Raleigh and everything else with that, so I can't.
Yeah, I think from reviewing the original transcript, that's where all of the data and the video was all kept and stuff like that.
Correct.
Let me ask you, could I make a request? You maybe run it past some people?
I can take your name and number and I can call them.
Okay.
The last time they told me that.
Okay, in terms of anything. Oh, okay. What I was hoping to get is maybe a copy of the video from that day, because it's kind of public record now.
It's, like I said, if you want to send an email with your asking
Okay.
forward stuff to them with that on there. Like I said, I don't have on that part with that. My direct email is Jane Jane dot Fisher Fisher.
Okay.
He's at you.org.
Okay.
And then
And
I can see who we can get to and go from there.
okay, that's
But I don't have, like I said, I can't discuss anything and not having access to any of that stuff.
right. I know that all the banking stuff is always sensitive anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So actually, two things.
Just put it all in the
Put it all in the email.
Just send me all an email with that, with where you would and all that stuff with that, and then
Okay.
I'll
We'll do.
send up and see what they
We'll do that. Yeah.
they do,
Okay.
blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah, appreciate that. I'll send you a quick email, and with those two requests, I'm anticipating that all this banking stuff is very sensitive. So
Yeah, you got where I'm getting at.
yeah. Right. Okay. All right. That sounds great. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Jane.
All right, you're welcome. Nice meeting you on
Nice
the line.
meeting you.
You have a good rest of your day, okay?
Okay, you too. Thanks a
All right,
lot.
you're welcome. All right, bye-bye.
Well, that was pretty much a bust, I'd say. Well, not really, Duke. I mean, we caught up with the elusive Jane Fisher, and she's real, Duke. Wait a minute, was that some sort of hidden dig on me? No, we got an email. We're going to send out an inquiry, which we did, I do admit, with perfect southern charm. She did give me the old, "You getting nothing from me, kid, take it up with the boss." So I sent her an email. Fedora Media would like to know or have access to know two things regarding the Ira Yarmolenko case, a trial at which you testified in 2009. During the proceedings, still photographs were obtained from an original video capturing the last banking transaction conducted by the decedent, Ira Yarmolenko, on May 5, 2008, inside the bank. Fedora Media would like to obtain a copy of the video showing that transaction if possible. The stills obtained from the video are now a matter of public record. Additionally, would you be able to acknowledge what type of transaction was conducted by the decedent on that date? A deposit, withdrawal, etc. Any advice you may have on how to legally obtain access to the requested records would be warmly appreciated. Kindly, Ben Cazo, Fedora Media. And that was sent, I would say, over 30 days ago, so let's go ahead and send Jane Fisher a reminder as we're speaking. Over 485 there. Coming up to the Goodwill Donation Center. Timing the route. And it appears to be that we are already at the Goodwill Donation Center. We don't know exactly how much time that took, but it seemed to go fairly quick. We are at the donation center. And we can see exactly how much time that took. 6 minutes. We'll have to see how long that actually took. Actually looks like it's about 7 minutes.
let's just assume that we start from here and go directly to the YMCA parking lot where she was found. We'll start that on a new recording. Beginning now. The dash cam is still on. Here we go. Okay. We're turning onto 485. This is probably the most direct route. And we're going to see how long it takes to get there. We'll be traveling about 60 miles an hour the whole way. I don't think we'll get much faster than that, but we could. Just want to keep up with traffic. Bright and early on a Monday morning.
So there you have it. The first time we timed our route from the bank to the Goodwill, it took us 8 minutes, and now it just took us 7 minutes. So we can pretty much rely on the fact that it took somewhere between 7 to 8 minutes to get there. Now, we just left the Goodwill, and we jumped on the closest interstate, which is Interstate 485. Again, 485 is the interstate that encircles Charlotte in a big circle. We're in the campus area still, in the 2 o'clock position, and we went from the Goodwill, jumped on Interstate 485 this time to take the closest interstate to get to the YMCA parking lot area. You'll recall our last route assumed that her last stop was in the Jackson's Java area, which we proceeded down University Boulevard and got on Interstate 85, which is the interstate that cuts that circle in half, directly to the 9 o'clock position YMCA parking lot area that way. This time, on 485, we're taking the route atop the circle, which is closest to the Goodwill, traveling atop that circle and heading over to the 9 o'clock position. So we're slowly putting the pieces together. And as we're doing so, a natural question comes to mind as we're trying to put these pieces together, and that is, wouldn't we like to know how much time she spent at Jackson's Java? Because that's a critical piece. We don't have video of her at Jackson's Java, but we do have video and timestamps of her at the bank and the Goodwill and at the YMCA parking lot, but not having that timestamp at Jackson's Java. Maybe I thought the best thing to do was reach out to somebody close at Jackson's Java and see if we can't get a sense of how long she was actually there.
Did she work at Jackson Java for a while?
Just that year.
Oh,
I'd
just that
say
year.
she got there right before school was starting, you know, so she drove up on her bike and we hired her. And she was, you know, giving us notice that as soon as class was over, she was going back to Chapel Hill that summer. So she basically worked that school year. So August till May, basically. To me, it's general. I mean, that first impression that we had of the bike and that, you know, that was,
I remember you calling me to tell me about that.
Yeah.
I don't believe this, but we had somebody today that has biked all through Alaska and she was
just beaming.
Yeah.
So
bubbly.
Great employee. And I guess the thing about it is that don't know that anything stands out because it was just so regular that she just had that zest for life. I mean, there's some people that they have good days and they have bad days, and you can, maybe they're usually really good and you remember a few of the bad days, or they're have bad days, and when you have a good day that's memorable. She was just happy and going and doing her thing, and school and in and out, just going, and so and of course, as you're being a part of her life, you're not going, you're thinking, you're not trying to think ahead like, well, I need to savor every moment because something tragic's going to happen. Right. You're just experiencing her life with her as you're interacting with her. And so,
great time in life. She obviously liked new beginnings, to just, come in, start over again, and she was getting ready to start over again.
Start over again in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, like I say, she did not lack for adventure or willingness to do stuff. So, yeah.
Did she ever say why she was going back to Chapel Hill, or she just felt like it was good because I think she was going to carry on school at Chapel Hill?
Yeah, I think she's going to finish there. No, I didn't have that conversation with her.
Okay.
The discussion, I guess, and I'm not sure, when she made the decision or whatever, that she was, looking to probably go back and finish there. But I don't know the reason or anything. So sometimes you meet people and you just sort of get the impression, and that impression is very characteristic of what you continue to learn about them or whatever. And I think with her, that was just true. I mean, it was just that vibrant energy and just, a zest and zeal for life, and just, present and just very outgoing and just, just delightful. So, and just, it was, just totally delightful. So, yeah. So that, and then of course the way she interacted with, everybody around her was like that, just, friends and customers and employees and stuff. So very true. Yep. I've got a winery vineyard up in the mountains, and that's actually where I first heard about it, because we had just gotten started, and I was literally on the tractor mowing, and my son called me and said that Ira had been killed, and didn't know much, but just totally out of the blue. Just
was this
crazy.
The morning or after early afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This would have been, I'm trying to remember for sure. This was because she was killed and discovered that on the afternoon, right? Late.
Early afternoon.
Early afternoon.
Yeah.
I think this was actually the next morning before everybody really realized it in the coffee shop and told me.
Okay.
I believe.
Was that when they started asking questions at the coffee shop the next day?
Well, we heard about it. Then we had detective, and I talked to some people there because they wanted to see, do we have any security footage? Somebody had followed her. Was anybody with her when she came to the coffee shop and all that? So the employee that we had, they just wanted to talk to her and say, was anybody with her, and any information or any of that. So that was, but that didn't happen for another day or so. Once, I guess, they got into a full-scale investigation looking at what was going on.
I see. Was there, it seems like there was a story that she had stopped by also to get some coffee bags or something to put some stuff in. Was that, I know she dropped off a book or...
Yeah, she dropped off some things. I think she may have been, she'd finished her, last day and stuff. She stopped by there, dropped off something. She may have picked up some coffee to take with her. We had coffee bags. I can't remember now if she intentionally came by just for that or not. And then I guess...
found peculiar about that day or that morning, anything that was going on?
I mean, not directly. I mean, all I heard was, pretty much what was in the news. Mm-hmm. I talked to one of the, assistant district attorneys out of the office over there, and I'd gotten a call and asked about, things you'd expect people to ask. Do you have a security tape? Did anybody notice anything? Anybody, we obviously didn't have anything happen that would be suspicious or whatever. as far as what was going on at the coffee shop, because she was in and out. There's no linkage there. There was a thought there, well, maybe somebody saw her at Goodwill and followed her, and so there's I think that was where obviously the most attention was paid. And I don't think anything really has ever redirected attention that there was some other, thing that happened in Charlotte that ended up following her or kidnapping her or whatever other thing like that. I don't think there's ever been any evidence of that. There's some surveillance footage from homes in the neighborhood that saw her driving in. Doesn't show somebody apparently with her. So if you show up there by yourself, it's got to be somebody else is there. It's you look at it and say, do I personally, as a person, know that this person did it? Do I know it? Well, obviously, no, I didn't do the investigation or have all the evidence, or there's not something that's probably we don't have a video of him doing it or whatever. But all the evidence that's there doesn't implicate anybody else.
Right.
And there's evidence that implicates him. And so it seems to me it was, and like I say, the jury found him guilty. Some of the arguments, the whole no defense kind of thing, you got different strategies. You got, obviously you got people that sometimes they don't get good defense, whatever. But sometimes, the burden of proof is for the prosecutor to prove the guilt, not to prove your innocence. And there are a lot of defendants that, the more they're involved, the easier it is for the prosecutor to make their case. And so I don't think that's a no defense argument. If you take the fifth, it doesn't mean that you're guilty. If you don't take the fifth, then you can take advantage. If you testify, in this case, you can prove your own guilt. So
what you hear, nobody really knows. She just stopped by and dropped off a gift. It was a quick go.
And she was there a few minutes. That was about it.
That was it. So it wasn't like she sat down.
Got a paycheck or something.
Oh, she get a paycheck?
I can't remember that because it was at the end, so I don't know if I had her check there or didn't have her check there. I don't know. I can't swear to that. But she stopped there, but she was in and out. It was just like she finished class. It was morning, I don't know, 10th, I can't remember now. Morning, stopped in, just, excited and, whatever, dropped off the book and, ended up, I think we only had the one employee there at the time. And
maybe Floyd. Seems like he kind of...
Maybe, I can't remember if Floyd was there or not, but...
Was he an employee? Or was he...
No, he's a professor.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. What was Floyd's last name? He was a heavier guy. He did computer. He was a regular at Jackson's a lot.
I had to ask Carol or somebody.
Obviously, she left an impression on...
She was a sweetheart. Just like her first thing. And it tears me up thinking... Because I drive by, across that bridge.
Right.
Going to Hendersonville... a lot. Since that time, hundreds and hundreds of times. And I just still drive by there and think about it. And it's just like, I can't believe it.
You're talking about the I-85 bridge? Yeah.
So, because I drive to Hendersonville, at least once a week just about, or, when I go up there. Anyway, it just, it's still hard to believe. It's just, so.
He wasn't the right person. I sure hope to God they find who was. That's what needs. That's the total injustice.
Attention to detail. Attention to detail is everything. 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 Attention to detail is everything.
We'll be sure to do that, but we're still cruising right along at about 70 miles an hour, and we're right at the Charlotte Airport on Little Rock Road, just passing Billy Graham Parkway. Ira's vehicle would have traveled on this very highway, no matter which way she started, up by the university, where she was last seen.
Who committed an opportunistic type crime. There's two types that might fit that. That might be one that she may have known that got into a heated argument and it got out of hand and he killed her, or it could be a stranger that's got a lengthy record that's streetwise with crime, walking the area. That's streetwise with crime, walking the area. Most crime is opportunistic. You see a vulnerable victim, you take advantage of it. In that deep woods and down there with that single girl, that was a vulnerable victim, let me tell you. And so you take that, and I'm more leaning toward the latter, where you got a juvenile that's involved in this age 6 to 21 or 22 that attacked her down there. He didn't bring anything with him to commit the crime because it was opportunistic and stuff. So that means that he's streetwise and stuff. So that means that he's streetwise. Yeah, he's got a crime experience.
Other people have hypothesized that it might have been somebody that she met up by the strip malls that drove to that area. Now, what would strike me about that scenario is essentially that would mean that somebody would have to essentially abduct her with absolutely nobody recollecting anything. The area was canvassed, and the amount of attention that this case got, it would seem to me like somebody, you're talking about a university area. If she was, something happened in that area, wouldn't you think that somebody would have seen her with somebody, or in a car, or get in a car at some point?
You would think so, yes. Just laid her down beside where the car was at. You have to understand, I call these effective type of killers. And what these are, effective vehicle type killers, they use the victim as a vehicle to vent their rage and anger, their internal rage and anger on. So the reason why they leave the body there is because everything is, they're so wrapped up emotionally into the crime and strangle her and whatever. What they do when they come out of that, for just a second or two, then they're faced with not being discovered. And so what they do, they ram the car down there to try that didn't go down. So now they get away from the crime scene.
Okay, well, and
she was dumped on the bank of the river just like the car was. There's nothing really any special importance of her being particularly there on the bank of the river. There's nothing really any special importance of her being particularly there on the bank of the river. 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 Particularly there on the bank of the river.
And those were Dr. Godwin's earlier comments on this case when he had limited information available to him at that time. Keep in mind that Dr. Godwin has been featured in many major broadcast news programs, crime segments across the country. He has written several books on criminal psychology combined with forensic technology. You can find him on Amazon Books, Dr. Maurice Godwin. He has dedicated his professional life to hunting killers. He is highly educated. Don't let the soft drone of that southern drawl fool you. Everybody knows the southern drawl involves vowel diphthongization of the front pure vowels, or the prolongation of the most heavily stressed syllables with the corresponding weakening of the less stressed ones, so that there is an illusion of slowness even though the tempo may be fast. Bloody hell! Dr. Godwin is in the business of reading crime scenes, but for what reason? He's studying crime scenes and the circumstances surrounding the death in order to get into the mind of a killer. But why does he want to do that? He wants to eventually be able to describe the characteristics of an individual who would commit and carry out such a heinous act, as well as perhaps how they did it. He might be able to glean where they live or where they work, what they look like, how they might be hiding in plain sight in your community, masquerading as humans, perhaps by your very side. And much like a sculptor chisels away at the stone to reveal his creation, Dr. Godwin is revealing an image. And what shape will emerge? What man, what creature in the semblance of man? What monster will we behold? Will it be the boy next door, or the werewolf in London? Or something, or someone, or some individuals in between, someone you'd never expect even now. We don't know. But when I was at the courthouse, I was able to obtain some photos of the state's exhibits in the Mark Carver case, showing the ligatures that were wrapped around Ira's neck, tragically ending her young life. So Dr. Godwin now has these photographs. What do they tell him at this point? Keep in mind that I was not able to obtain the crime scene photos that he requested, as well as other information yet, but they are on their way. However, I thought it significant at this point to get his thoughts, even though his profile may evolve and change as more information is made available on this case.
In terms of profiling, well, if you take in conjunction with the ligature strangulation, and the way she was found laying on the ground and stuff, it's starting to shape up like it's might be this is a sex crime, a sexually motivated murder. See, some sexual motivated killers are impotent. They have problems, sexual dysfunction. They can't perform.
Is that common? Or?
Yes, that's really common among sexual offenders.
Why kill in the first place, I guess?
Well, they have to go to extreme to try to gain, to try to meet. They have to use something to try to gain that maximum pleasure, because they're impotent and they just can't. They have a sexual dysfunction. They just can't reach it without trying something, which may be why you kill somebody with a black cord. The black cord was what killed her around her neck, because that's what made the furrows. You can see the furrows, indents like you see in a tobacco field, furrows in the ground. She was killed. That's what killed her. The black cord. Then why the need to put the blue one on there? Why the need to put the blue one?
Have any theories?
Why the need to put the blue one?
Have any theories?
Yes. It's just some other manner to try to sexually get off. That's what I think. Because you have to go over there, you have to go to the back of the car, you have to cut it with a knife, then you have to put it on her. It's another way to have control, and it's another way to sexually get off. Because the blue thing around her neck served no other purpose, because she was already dead.
And then to know the manner of tying.
Well, that indicates possibly previous military or avid hunter.
Interesting. And why do you say that?
Or a fisherman. Well, because knots and stuff go along with those sports activities and that background, that military background.
So, military or fishing and sports would indicate somebody very knowledgeable about knots. Military or some other human training would be the person to add the additional aspect of knowing that that's enough to wrap around a neck and strangle somebody.
Yeah. That's right.
If I was going to be so knowledgeable on that, I thought, well, maybe I don't want people to really know that. You know what I mean? If a lot of people, I posted online this knots and stuff like that, and people look at it and their impression is, well, I don't know what kind it is. It's probably just a jungle bundled up mess, because when you're looking at it, it looks like maybe a jumbled bumbled mess or something that people aren't readily, having studied it, I know that it was very intricately done. And so if I was somebody that was going to do that, and I may not want it known that I'm that sophisticated, you know.
Well, this is all. This crime is too integral, or too complex for.
Interestingly enough, too. Now I'm just being the devil's advocate because I want to present all the angles. Interestingly enough, the people on the jet ski, when they rode by, of course, Carver claimed to be on the river, you know. Down there fishing. This guy, the jet skier, he lived underwater. You know, he literally lived on the water about a mile downstream, and spent a lot of time on the water. And he said that when he drove by, and this is probably another reason why Carver was found guilty. Carver claimed to be down there fishing, et cetera, et cetera. The jet skier says when he rode upstream, he looked over there, he didn't see anybody. No net. No, nothing. And that's one thing that we were talking about, is that, you know, and the other thing that he brought up was that as the jet skier approached the body, you know, he was screaming as loud as he could, you know, hey, you know, you need any help, you know, that type of thing. And Carver was like, no, I never heard anything. You know, so first of all, he wasn't where he, you know,
said he was.
Yeah. And then he claimed, well, no, I didn't hear anything. You know, I heard what he said is when the guy on the jet skier found the body, he told Brenda, his girlfriend, who was also on jet ski, he says, you know, there's a dead body over here. And she said, fuck you, Skippy, because he was always joking, you know. So Carver said he heard that, but yet the Dennis, the guy that was the guy on the jet ski, said he thought that was really suspicious because he was yelling at the top of his lungs.
To the parking lot. Her car was seen pulling in a little bit after 11. I want to say about 10 after 11. Pulled in. And then pulled out. So on a Monday morning at about the same time, we made it to the YMCA directly from the Goodwill drop-off location. Took the quickest route here, all freeway, and made it here, doing about 70 miles an hour the whole way in 25 minutes. There's other routes that could have been taken, but this was just the most direct route, and we find that took 25 minutes, doing 70 miles an hour from the university area. We know that from the time that she left the Goodwill drop-off location at roughly around 10:33, 10:34, 35 minutes later at 10 after 11, she was seen coming into the YMCA parking lot. That would have been 35 minutes. We made it here in 25, taking the most direct route from the Goodwill drop-off location. That means that from the Goodwill, if she took any other route or stopped any other place, she would have been fighting more traffic. She would have had to stop some other place, and within that 10-minute time frame, she had additional time to travel here from a location that's probably less direct here, and then stop some other place. So after she left the Goodwill, there's really not much time to play with in terms of how she got here. Now that route from the Goodwill area to the YMCA parking lot took 25 minutes, but there's a slight clarification or correction that needs to be made in that route based on what was said in previous episodes. Oh Christ, got another correction. Every time I turn around, this guy's making a correction. I mean, this Caso guy, he seems like a reasonably intelligent human being and all, but if he could keep straight in his own mind what route he's taking, what road he's on, probably what case he's working, maybe he could make something of himself someday, but I don't know. In the meantime, I think he needs somebody to keep track of him. That's what I think. If you've got something to say to Caso, send it to me, Duke@Fedora.company, and I'll make sure he gets the message, because blessed he needs help, I'm afraid. That's right, Duke. Now, the correction is that in previous episodes we mentioned that starting at the Goodwill that we were going to take 485 all the way on the top of the circle and head over to the 9 o'clock position. But the correction is we don't actually go all the way on the top of the circle, because before we go all the way on the top of the circle, Interstate 85, the one that cuts the circle in half, intersects the circle. So, of course, if we're taking the shortest route, we take 485, start going on the top of the circle till we hit 85,
and then we take that directly to the 9 o'clock position, the YMCA parking lot area. So whether we start at the Goodwill, assuming that was her last stop, or Jackson's Java, assuming that was her last stop, we end up on Interstate 85, the one that cuts across the circle, heading over to the 9 o'clock position. It's easier to get the visual by going to the beginning of episode 5 on the website. You can find that link in the podcast description and you can see these locations. Note also what the last trip from the Goodwill 485 to 85 then to the YMCA parking lot also took 25 minutes. But we started at the Goodwill at 10:35. When we started from Jackson's Java, that also took us 25 minutes. We started off at Jackson's Java at 10:50. We started off at the Goodwill at 10:35, the timestamp on the video that Ira was seen leaving at that time. What are these times telling you about Ira's timeline that morning?
So I guess the best way to make sure that people know that someone like that existed is just to keep telling them, you know?
Ask us girls disguised as women, with hearts full of longing, with bellies full of indecision. What is life worth to you? What is time worth to you? Girls disguised as women, with hearts full of longing, with what is life worth to you? What is time worth to you?